Okay, welcome. Welcome everyone to our Mindful Leadership Mondays series, episode 5 from Project Positive Planet. Our topic today is an open discussion about diversity in the wellness and hospitality industry. I am absolutely pleased to welcome Deborah Myers, the Spa Director for Mandarin Oriental in Washington, D.C., Maureen Harris-Vipperman, Director of Spa Development at Ocean Properties Limited, and our hosts. I am Sophia Heider-Hawk, founder of Papilia, and Kim Diorsi, Spa Operations and Marketing Expert. Project Positive Planet is a collaboration between Weld World TV, Caribbean We Consulting, and Papilia. Welcome, ladies, to this much needed and fabulous conversation I feel like we're going to have. I can feel the energy in this space, this virtual space already. I really want to thank you all for making space to join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Now, I want to dive right in because I think we have a lot of questions for you. And the first question I have, I'll start with Deborah, is, and I'd love, Maureen, for you to answer this after, is tell us a little bit about who you are first, Deborah.
So thank you for providing this space. It's definitely a dialogue that we need to have. So thank you, ladies, both for inviting me. As you said, I'm Deborah Myers. I am currently the Director of Spa at Mandarin Oriental in Washington, D.C. I've been there for about 10 months. Been in this industry for about 9 years. So most of my experiences have been at my former property. I am a mother. I have 3 children. I have a stepson. I have then 2 biological children. My daughter is 26. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Victoria.
Happy birthday, Victoria.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, yay, she's at the beach. And then my son, is 24, which really is sort of the driving force for why I'm so passionate about everything that's going on in the world right now, because he was sort of the person that really reached out to me expressing his anxiety and frustrations. I'm a very upbeat, outgoing, very positive individual, and I like to, take the bull by its horns. And, if I'm presented with an opportunity or a challenge, I like to see, how I can roll up my sleeves and become a part of the solution and not the problem. So, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to, be a part of this conversation and, be a catalyst for change, because it's very necessary.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you so much. And Deborah, it was your post that really got me and struck me to thinking when you posted about your feelings about your son, and you were so raw and it was so emotional. And I really appreciate your honesty, letting us know how you feel. So it could have been easy for you not to express that and share that, but thank you for sharing that and helping me be better.
Yeah, I think that anyone that's a mother, right? And you don't even have to be a mother. If you have a heart and you care, we see, we know, we hear what's going on. And when your child reaches out to you and and I'm going to try not to get emotional. I can be quite a big baby, and I'm going to try not to, because I wear my heart on my sleeve. When your child reaches out to you and they want to see justice, they're expressing their concerns, their care, their challenge, their frustrations. As parents, you want to fix things for your kids. My son is 24. He's college educated, graduated from Penn State. He's working on his master's degree, from American University. He's an accomplished young man, lives on his own, but he's scared. And, we are in the wellness industry. Mental health is a huge part of that. Mm-hmm. And we have a responsibility. When your child tells you that they fear for their lives, at any time they can be stopped by a police officer, and, that potential officer could, abuse his power just because of the color of someone's skin. That's a legitimate conversation, and it is a real concern, and it's been happening across the world and in this country for years. And so it's just time to, to speak up and take a stand and just look at this for what it really is and see how we can make a change.
And Maureen, my heart's going out to you right now, and I want to hold your hand right now and walk with you through this, because I know you too have been through something similar, and your son is very dear in my heart.
Thank you. You can see his picture up there.
Aw.
And thank you so much for having me here today and being a part of this very important conversation, not only in our industry and our communities, but in our country right now. I am a mother of 4. I have 3 sons and a daughter. And as Kim was saying, she'd like to hold my hand. I lost my son almost 2 years ago. It's not easy out there for us. And we do have concerns about our sons, our children, even my daughter. And so those conversations like we're having now need to be had with everyone, our children, our parents, our coworkers, and people that we are able to communicate with all the time. I've been in this industry for almost 25 years. And I've seen a lot of twists and turns and growing, and being in the hospitality industry, you see where things may not be very fair for you or for a coworker. And you have to decide if you're going to do something about that, or if it's your battle to fight, and how you're going to do that. It can be very difficult. It can be very hurtful. It can be very stressful. Prior to being in this industry, I served our country as a United States Marine. So I am a wartime veteran as well. And even in the military and traveling across this great, big, beautiful world of ours, you see a lot. I didn't grow up with racism as an issue because I grew up in the Middle East and South America. And it wasn't until I returned to the United States as a teenager that I really got to see it for myself and experience it for myself. And it wasn't until my oldest son was in kindergarten that I realized there was a real problem when he came home and asked me, "Mom, what is an N-word?" Oh. He had no idea. I was floored, but I knew it was time for me at that time to bring some diversity and education, not only to the children, the principal, the superintendent, but the parents of that school. Because the little boy who said that to him had no idea. This is a learned behavior. And it's going to take a lot of unlearning. And I think before we can do that, people have to acknowledge that it's there and that it is not okay.
Wow. I have all these questions written, but my heart is just, I want to hold your hand right now, Maureen. You're just already an inspiration. Kim, you were right about these two phenomenal women right here.
Thank you.
Wow.
I could cry because
Well, I want to ask the both of you this question. I'd love for you to share the milestones that have led you to where you are, professionally, personally, emotionally. I know you just shared a little bit of that right now, but if you'd love to, if you can, share some of those milestones that really resonate, that you'd like to share with our audience today. Deborah, if you'd like to start.
Certainly. I started in this industry about 9 years ago, and I started as an hourly employee in one of my local spas, a very large hotel. And I was really fortunate that my spa director at the time, whose name was Tony Sullivan, she took the time to get to know me. She hired me, but she could see that I had more to offer, and she looked past the color of my skin. And she created an opportunity that gave me the platform to access spa leadership. She created a spa sales manager role for me because she could see that I had a lot of talent and the skill set that the spa needed at that time. And it also gave me an opportunity to showcase what I could do. And she's really been someone that has been a mentor for me in this industry at a time where there were no women that looked like me. Now, she's a Caucasian woman. She is like a sister to me. She is the one that gave me the opportunity to get into this industry. After she created the position, she left 2 weeks later and, rejoined a former brand. And then I was very fortunate that her successor also allowed me to be creative in the space that I was in, allowed me to excel. She taught me everything that I know about spa operations. So those two women, along with my general manager and my hotel manager, Richard Morse and Bob Moore at that time, really believed in me. I didn't have all the credentials on paper, but they gave me an opportunity. And when my predecessor left, I got the opportunity to become a spa leader. Typically, it doesn't happen in the short period of time that it did for me. In under 4 years, I became the director of the spa that I had started. And I've only worked in two hotels and 2 spas. And it really sort of blew my mind. They allowed me to be who I was and be creative and bring what I could to the team, to the organization. And I think it's so important. And part of that happened because we can't live in our silos. If we're in the spa industry or the hospitality industry, we have to be open to working with other people and being inclusive and wanting to get to know other people. And that's something that I've always done, and so making myself someone that's available to people and becoming involved, they could see, that I cared about the industry, I cared about the organization, and they gave me that opportunity. And, there have been many challenges along the way, but I think that people being open-minded and not looking at you for the color of your skin, but for what you can bring and what you have to contribute is going to be the way that we're going to change things in this industry. Because, I talked about the 2 women that are my mentors. There were no women that looked like me at that time. And even, over the years, meeting Maureen today, this is great because I now have, a new partner.
I'm here.
Right? That I can connect with, that's in this industry that can, that can help me, and hopefully I can help her. But that's a space that is missing. And I have an obligation now to pay that forward for, other people of color that look like me, because the space really doesn't exist in the industry.
For me, it was my first milestone and ego boost. Not necessarily, the emotional path, but it was an ego boost for me. Was the first time that I was recruited. I started in a spa writing protocols. And became spa director about 1.5 years later. And I was recruited from Michigan to California, and then again from Orange County, California to LA County. And being recruited for what I know that I'm good at, that somebody who didn't look like me recognized that in me. It gave me a drive to want to be that voice. At the time, way back then, there were definitely, no spa directors that looked like me. There were probably no men spa directors. Sure. And, when you have that shift of position, so quickly, and you just have to go on what or call people. So I would just randomly call spas to talk to their spa director. Can you help me? And my mentor was Rihanna Riego. And she was so kind, so generous, so free in sharing information and knowledge. And then I met Nina Curtis, who was a mind-blowing inspiration and became a sister to me. So it had to be people recognizing beyond my skin what I could contribute to their company and wanting me to be a part of that growth.
All right, thank you. Deborah and Maureen, we keep hearing the word diversity and inclusion, especially over the last weeks. What is your definition of diversity, and how do you think, and why do you think diversity is important? Deborah?
Look, I think in a nutshell, diversity is really about differences, right? It's differences. Whether that's, race, gender, age, social, economic background. It is the thing that makes us different, and people being allowed to be accepted for that, and being treated fairly and respected for their differences. It is so important. The real world does not exist. The real world is not an all-black church and an all-white school, right? If we're not integrating and interacting with other people, we're never going to get to know people for who they truly are, right? It's just it's a surface level. And, I think for me, because I was born and raised in England, I have such a different outlook and perspective because, I have a huge array and a variety of friends, whether it's at work or socially, that, are diverse. And that's important because the cultures and the beliefs, these things come from your core. Maureen touched on it. What people think, how they feel has everything to do with how they were raised and what they were exposed to, right? And those are behaviors that can be unlearned. So as we think about the people that might be on this call, what do your friends look like? What does your neighborhood look like? The school that you send your children to. I was very conscious that I sent my children to a diverse school. They attended Catholic school. I wanted them to grow up in an environment that reflects the real world, because you don't know how to navigate if you stay in your own silo with people that look like you, that do the same things as you. You don't know how to act in this world. So for me, diversity is all about differences and accepting those differences and understanding that it's okay to be different, but that people need to be respected and accepted for who they are and how they are.
Thank you, Deborah. Maureen, what's your definition of diversity?
I think Deborah said it beautifully. Diversity to me is expressing that all people are treated equal despite their cultural, ethnic, or racial differences. And I think it's important, like this conversation is important, because it builds us to lead and support policies that will bring justice and equality for everyone, not just our industry, wellness, hospitality, all of the little shops that we go to, the gas station, the grocery store. And I think you and I were talking about that, Kim, when I said diversity is going to have to start with mindfulness. People have to be cognizant of what they believe, but even more mindful subconsciously of why they believe it and what they were taught and why is that true or not true. So it comes to a point where we have to be mindful of every person around us and treat them well.
And you said it, Maureen, every person. Everyone.
Person.
And if I could just add to something Maureen just said there, and if you don't think that's true, I would encourage everyone to either Google or go on YouTube and take a look at the experiment that Jane Elliott did with the blue-eyed, brown-eyed students when they were kids. And that will really show you something that's going to blow your mind.
That's Jane Elliott?
Jane Elliott. It's an experiment she did on, I think it's called the blue-eyed and the brown, it's a blue eyes and brown-eyed children. Jane Elliott. You Google that and you take a look at that experiment and you watch how things will change rapidly. How people view, how these kids view each other, how the whole perspective changes based on what they were told about the color of their eyes and how they should treat people with different colored eyes. Fascinating. Fascinating. Check that out.
Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's what you're saying. I keep nodding yes, because when I do my diversity and inclusion workshops, trainings, I always start with mindfulness, because it always starts from understanding those unconscious biases and recognizing that they're there. And for that matter, you may not have realized it, right? It starts there. And I completely agree with what you've both said. So I thank you for vocalizing that.
Thank you.
My question for you is, have you this is without me assuming, right? Have you come across any professional challenges along the way? And if so, how did you overcome those challenges? Maureen, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, absolutely. I've overcome many challenges by first recognizing them for what they are. Sometimes we don't recognize challenges as challenges when we first come against them. We just assume that it's supposed to be that way, or assume that we just have a boss that's in a bad mood, or a coworker or supervisor that's having a bad day, or just maybe they're not a nice person. For me, coming from a military background, I have a tendency to dig my heels in and become stubborn with my voice, my thoughts, my feelings, but most of all, knowing that the situation is a battle, whether or not the situation is a battle or a war. And if that war is mine to fight, because at the end of the day, the only person that I can change is me.
True.
I two things come to mind for me. One of them from outside of the industry and one from inside of the industry. And I'll talk about the one from outside of the industry first. I mentioned previously that my children attended Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade, and then Catholic high school. And when they were in kindergarten through 8th grade, I also worked at that school. I was the director of development. And so I was largely responsible for fundraising and grant writing and generating revenue. Always had sales in my blood, driving opportunities for children to have scholarships to attend the school. And there was an organization that I began volunteering with, because they would do a lot of fundraising and work to provide monthly scholarships to local Catholic schools. And I got so involved with this organization because I believed in the mission and the vision and, Catholic education. I'm not Catholic, but it got to the point that they wanted me to join their board, but you had to be Catholic to be a member of the board. And the president was not having it. Now, this was typically an old boy network based on the look. Everybody was Caucasian. But those board members, because they took the time to know me and get to know me and could see what I had to contribute, they fought for those bylaws to be changed so that I could join that board. I served on that board for 2 years as vice president and was able to pave the way for other people to come after me now that are not Catholic to join that board. And they do amazing work, right? That's the type of inclusion that we need to see. People that are willing to make these changes, even if it's uncomfortable, or it puts, it makes someone feel uneasy, right? They were willing to do that. And it really wasn't about me, but they knew it was the right thing to do. And then I think about, at my previous property, there were 2 occasions that I applied for the same position. Perhaps I wasn't the most qualified, but on 2 occasions I applied for the same position, was denied on both occasions. I later found out that the individuals that were hired for the position were recommended. Neither one of them had spa experience, but it was a luxury chair in the brand that I was a part of. And so I'm assuming I didn't fit the mold, I didn't fit the look, but neither one of those individuals lasted for 5 minutes. And, the reality is, when one door closes, another one opens. I didn't let that stop me. I didn't let that discourage me. I was determined that, okay, this means I know I have to work twice as hard as everyone else, because that's what you have to do when you're people of color. So it just meant that I had to hone my skills. And the next thing I knew, the door opened for me to become the director of the property that I was at. So that door probably was not meant to open. But I've often thought of myself as someone that has not experienced a lot of racism in my life. I mean, I've been in this country for almost 30 years. But when you really take a look and you step back, it's there. It may be subtle, but it's there. It is absolutely there. But how you choose to handle that, and you don't let that define you, you flip that around and you turn that into something positive, that's been the choice that I've made.
Wow, very powerful.
Maureen?
What was the question again? I was so enraptured with Deborah. She said it, what Deborah said.
The question was, have you come across professional challenges along the way? And if so, how did you overcome those challenges?
Yes. So definitely there are always challenges from interviewing for positions that you don't get, expecting promotion that you don't get to someone who is less than qualified. And Kim, you understand that. Mm-hmm. And like Deborah, I see it as either that wasn't the way I was supposed to go. So that door closed, I'm not going to fight it, going with the flow and bloom where I'm planted. And like Deborah said as well, you can't let it define you, but you can let it fuel you to keep moving forward and to figure out where I may be lacking in something or how I can do better where I am, because apparently the universe wants me where I am. So there is a need for me wherever I'm planted. So when it comes to challenges and struggles, professionally or personally, I feel what has worked for me is it is a lesson. And I'm either going to grow from it or grovel in it. And I'm not a groveler. So we learn and we grow.
Thank you. I like that word. I'm going to fuel from it.
And what I'm hearing from both of you is with your challenges, you tend to take a step back and to think about what that means for you before reacting.
Yes.
And that's where I think that mindfulness piece comes back in. Is that right? Is that a fair way to summarize? Okay. Because I'm thinking about that also for me.
Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Because I think if we become reactive to something that is confronting us, we become part of the problem and not part of the solution. And when you take strong women like us, and we are going to be met with challenges. We are going to be met with mountains. And so it is important to take a look back, step back, analyze the situation, and learn to speak the language of the person that we're dealing with. Because we can't come off like this.
not an angry Black woman. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Very stereotypical. Not at all.
Yeah. And with those challenges, why do you think the spa and wellness industry isn't as diverse as it could be? Deborah, we can start with you.
Oh, wow. That's a really great question. I think that the last time I sort of did a survey, I think that I did a little bit of research, and I think that African-American women or women of color spend 9 times more on health and beauty products. 9 times more, about $1.2 trillion a year. But yet we're not represented in the space, right? I think the last time I looked, the wellness industry was about a $4.2 trillion industry. So that is a large percentage of that money, 25% if my math is good. But we're not represented in the space. And I think until employees see themselves represented, it's going to continue to remain the same. We need to find opportunities to mentor employees. Why is it that when you go into a hotel or you go into a spa, when you see people of color, they're either the bellman, they're the housekeepers, and there's nothing wrong with any of these professions. In the spa industry, perhaps they're the concierge, they are the spa attendants, or they're the therapists. Why is that? Why is that? Right? Someone has to do like was done for me. You need to look and see who you have that's in your team, right? Give that person an opportunity to grow, and then we'll continue to see, people of color in this space. Mentoring people is very important. I mean, the recruiting aspect, where are folks recruiting? There is not a lack of people of color on this planet. Depending on where you live, perhaps you need to try different recruiting strategies. Maybe you need to, partner with Black colleges, or perhaps you try to recruit through Latino publications. You have to do something different in order to attract, diverse employees, right? And then of course you need to, nurture the ones that you have. And, when employees see themselves, right, it gives them a drive. There's something to aspire for. Oh, there's someone that looks like me. I can do what she's doing. I can do what he's doing, right? I think of all of the spa calls that I sit on, whether it's meetings that I attend in conference, or, in person, or we think about, the current platform we have right now, which is Zoom and technology. When I get on these calls, I am one of two, maybe, in person at these meetings. I might be the only one that attends. And why is that? We have to make this an accessible pace for people to come. And I could go on about this all day, but I think about how excited, and it sort of blew my mind. And I've only thought about it, and thinking about, this panel discussion, how exciting it was for me especially in my former property, when women of color, affluent women of color, would come in and find out that I was the director of spa. It was almost like they wanted to bow down. And I thought, this is kind of crazy, right? And would say things like, it's so wonderful to see you in this position. I don't think like that. But when they're going to spas all over the world, all over the place, and they don't see someone that looks like myself or Maureen in a leadership role, perhaps they'll take their business elsewhere. And we have a lot of money to spend.
Thank you, Deborah. Maureen, why do you think spa and wellness industry isn't as diverse?
I think that it again has to do, like Deborah said, with recruiting, depending on what your talent pool is, and making sure that all things being equal, that we give somebody an opportunity. I remember when I got promoted to spa director at my first resort, the Renaissance in Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan wasn't very diverse in that day, and I was going to an all-white church. And I told some of the people in the church, and I was really grateful that I got the position that I was, working at the Renaissance. And I remember one of the leaders of the church saying, so what are you, a housekeeper? And yeah. And no, I said, no, I'm the director. And a friend of mine was like, yep, she's the boss. She's the boss. And they were so excited for me. So then the next Sunday, same man came to me and said, you're not the boss. The boss there is a man. And, and his name is Bill. And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, okay. And so it not only is internal, it's the leadership aspect, looking at all of the positions in the resort. Again, taking a look at your talent pool and your community. And I really believe what Deborah said about mentoring. We have so many beautiful, talented, brown skin people, men, women out there who would be fantastic in this industry. but I don't know if they know that it can be for them. And
Good point,
so
yes.
I think it starts there. I think it starts there.
So, Maureen, to some points you've been making, my next question was just about leadership. In what ways do you think diversity is important to someone in a leadership role? Can you elaborate?
Sure. I think it is extremely important because if you're not diverse, you're not fair. And you have to be fair. If you are not, your team knows it. They know that you favor this person for whatever reason, you favor that person, you prefer this person over that person, and treating your team equally, all of them, and looking for the talent, looking for the passion, looking for the fire, and growing that within your people. And understanding them. And I think it comes from a consciousness, because we all tend to pick our favorites. If, we know, okay, she will do whatever I ask, and I don't have to hear about all the drama and that kind of thing. But we don't take time to learn what the drama is. We don't know what people are going through at home. If we take the time to find out about them, find out what their dreams are, find out what their goals are, and if there is a passion to grow in this industry, or if it's just a job. And I think being a diverse leader gives you the opportunity to look at people's hearts. Not saying that protocols or procedures should be moved out of the way, but being able to address people as people, address their hearts, and fairly and equally across the board. And I think you'll find a loyalty there. You'll have a lot less turnover because they trust you and they know that you're fair.
Deborah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree 100% with everything that Maureen has said there. I mean, I think that it's definitely important, for someone in leadership to see diversity. Hiring leaders that are diverse, it definitely contributes to retention, right? Because of course, if people see themselves represented, they are more inclined to want to stay or think that this is something that I can achieve. So definitely. I mentioned before being mentors, having diverse individuals in leadership, can not only afford mentoring opportunities to people of color, but also people that are not people of color, right? Why would you not want to learn from someone that is not like you, right?
True.
Why would you not want to learn from someone that is not like you? We all have different cultural beliefs and different perspectives. This is how we grow. This is what makes the place exciting. It's fun when we can learn from others, right? That's what we would want to do. I think it's a missed opportunity not having, diverse leaders, because, you miss their perspective and you're missing out on creativity, right? We're all creative. We all have something to contribute in this world. And, if you don't have leadership that reflects that, it's a missed opportunity. And then, I would say that people of color, they really are they're not looking for a handout. They want exactly the same opportunity as their peers and their counterparts. And they deserve that, right? So whether that's in the hospitality industry, in the wellness industry, or in any industry, that is what they want. That is what they deserve. And they have every right to expect that would be afforded to them. I mean, if you give people an equal opportunity to succeed, there's racial diversity. And that's important. That is the world that we live in. It's a diverse world.
It's very important. And I appreciate that. And how can we help? Like, I know I want to help, and that's the reason why we're here. And Sophie and I put these together. But how can we help and take those steps in the hospitality, spa, and wellness industry to be more diverse and not be afraid of it? Deborah?
I'm going to say this. I'm very much a straight shooter. I'm very candid. I think It needs to start at the top. A lot of these boards, whether it's an executive committee or a leadership committee in a hotel or in the wellness industry, it needs to start at the top. You need to recruit and have people of color on your boards. I can think of one board off the top of my head. It's iSpa that has Patrick Huey on that board as a person of color. When I think of the wellness industry, I can't think of any other boards. I'm not saying they don't exist, but people of colors in senior leadership roles, it has to start there and then it has to trickle down, right? That is a must, because you have to change the perspective, the culture. You have to get their input. They have to have a seat at the table. They have to, so that they have the ability to, to speak on behalf of people of color and represent people of color, and so that they can be seen that is a goal that can be achieved, right? I don't know why there are so few.
And you're right, they have to have that seat. We have to give them that seat. They have
to. I mean, I mentioned before, visiting Black colleges, recruiting outside of the norm, right? We have to step out of our comfort zone. I'm saying we because I'm a part of this too, right? In this industry, we have to step out of our comfort zone. Yes, it's very comfortable to work with and socialize and interact with people that look like you, that have similar interests, right? But we have to step out of that. We have to step out of our comfort zone, right? So whether it's recruiting at Black colleges, whether it's, as I mentioned, other publications, getting involved with organizations like the NAACP or the Urban League, the National Urban League. These are great organizations for companies to partner with. Find out what we need, what you can do to help, right? Marketing. I mean, come on, let's talk about the wellness industry. Let's be very honest. I mean, when I pick up a publication, 9 times out of 10, I am seeing, if I'm in the wellness industry, I'm going to see a Caucasian, slim woman on the magazine. Come on, let's be real here. I mean, we're having a real conversation, right? You're right. We consistently we're not thinking about the entire population. If we want to attract diversity in the wellness industry, we need to market to people of color. We have money to spend. Right?
Because I know Maureen and Deborah, for years, we've been marketing the men to get the men into the spa.
Right.
That's been a huge initiative, right? So why can't we make that an initiative?
Yep. I mean, and the last thing I would say, because I could go on forever, diversity and inclusion training I really feel it needs to be a part of every organization's plan at orientation, and on an annual basis. Diversity and inclusion training needs to be a part of the culture for every single organization, because until we are willing to step out of our comfort zone consistently, things are not going to change. The majority have to be the ones to change things for the minority.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Maureen?
I love what Deborah said about the marketing, and I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that not only the companies that we work for, but our resource partners, our vendors, if you take a look at their collateral, it is much the same. And it doesn't speak to everybody. It doesn't speak to every shade. So if you hand a client or a guest some type of marketing collateral, does it represent them? When you look at your coworkers around you, the staff in the hotel, all of that, I think it starts with recognition from within. And, whether or not you're looking around the resort or around the spa, is it a rainbow or is it a flat line? Start there. Look at the talent pool and look at how you hire and the criteria you use in the selection process. Is your final determination based on all things being equal? And I'm not saying hire someone different just to have diversity. That could be a big mistake if they're not experienced or educated and have the other things that you need in that position. I'm saying if candidate A and candidate B are equal in all aspects except for color, who would you choose and why?
That's a good point. Very good point. We are going on to our 7th question. We have 2 more questions, but I want to ask the audience, if you have any questions for me, Maureen and Deborah, can you please put them on the chat so we can make sure that we get to your questions? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So, Maureen and Deborah, how do you work through diversity-related challenges? Maureen, why don't you start? I can see. I'm reading.
Well, after the shock wears off, because ignorance always shocks me, take a deep breath, keep my head held high, and keep doing what I'm doing because I know I'm good at it. There are times, when you can do or say something, and there are times when you just can't if you want to keep your job. Oftentimes, you can drive a person insane with just being a better person and treating them as if they're not as if you're not bothered, even if you are, by their behavior or by their words. You have to be the better person. And that, of course, is if their behavior is legal and you're not in harm's way. But working through diversity-related challenges, I can either complain about it and let it bother me, or I can go about doing what I'm doing as long as they're not hindering what I'm doing. And if it comes to a point where you're hindered or harassed and we don't say anything. But if you don't say anything, nothing gets changed.
I 100% agree with that. And I would add to that, we have to try to not take it personal. And it's really hard because sometimes, it is a direct attack. But, just rising above whatever the intent is, because there is an expectation, that if you are a person of color, if you're, if we want to be stereotypical here, that we're going to just fly off the handle and absolutely lose our minds and just have no sense of self-control. Right. But you just have to put things into perspective, and it does fuel your fire and just makes you more determined to work even harder, because in this space, we have to work twice as hard, to accomplish the same things or to be recognized, for our abilities. So, I just try to stay focused on the fact that, look, one door closes, another one opens, I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be in this space. And then always be mindful that people are always looking at you, and the response that they expect from you is not necessarily the response that you give them or should give them.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you. And Deborah, Maureen, what's your biggest piece of advice for getting started with diversity and inclusion? What can we do together to create a pathway?
To go first, Maureen? I could be here all day.
Okay, I would say don't judge a book by its cover, and become a mentor to the teachable. I think we should be mindful of what we do and say and how we do and say it. And if you wouldn't say it in front of a crowd of different ethnicities, but you would amongst your friends and family and those people who look like you, it's time to take a look at your core beliefs about equality. It starts within, with conscious awakening of who and what you really are inside and what you believe about diversity.
Excellent. Thank you, Maureen.
I love
Deborah?
that. I would add to that, not to judge people based on their name or how they look. Because we know that prejudice exists, and discrimination should never be tolerated in any workplace. And, you hear someone's name, you look at someone's name on an application, and then you form an opinion. Oh, well, this is definitely not going to be the right fit just because they have a name that, is not something that can be pronounced. Let's accept and meet people for, who they are and where they are. Right. And I know I talked before about, having a seat in these executive committees, on these boards, but also speaking up and taking a stand and being committed to wanting to be a catalyst for changing things. It's okay to start these dialogues and these conversations, but then, when we get home or we get back to work, if things remain the same, then we really haven't done anything, right? You have to take a stand and make a decision that you want to change the environment, you want to change the culture, you want to be a part of the solution. So be an active participant. Silence is not an option. And, if you are not actively taking a role in trying to change things, then you're just as responsible for the situation that we're in.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Stephanie. If you have a very diverse staff, what are your tips for bringing unity and uniting differences?
So I'm gonna take this one because I have been fortunate to work my two hotels. I have a very diverse team, my current hotel and my former hotel. But doing something as simple as an employee potluck, where you have everybody bring in food that represents the culture that they are from, right? It starts a dialogue, it starts a conversation. Food is a great way of breaking down barriers, when people are eating and talking and, right? You have a perception of a certain person or a certain thing, and, you having potlucks, having social interactions with your team, talking to your team, and for you, it may be that you need to step outside of your comfort zone, because if you're not comfortable as the leader doing that, then you have to start, right? You have to start somewhere. So maybe it's something as simple as a potluck to try to, get through to your team and sort of break down some barriers and some walls, and then you can build off that. And maybe it's something you do, you acknowledge, if you have a diverse team. So maybe, Cinco de Mayo, so it's Mexican food on one day, and then you have food for, whatever the different diverse nationalities are, so that you are acknowledging and respecting the people's cultures that are a part of your team, and showing that diversity and that you're open and welcome to that. So that's a simple way I would suggest in starting.
Food's always good.
Works for me. I don't know a person that doesn't like food.
I know. So I have a very diverse staff as well, from all cultures, background, men, women. And I think that if you don't have that communication within, with all of them as a team, and expressing that they are a team, expressing to them that they are all equal in your eyes, that each and every one of them is an important part of the success of your business, then they start to grow and maybe see each other as important. If you have a diverse team and they're not getting along, or you're not having inclusion there, you can figure out where that's coming from, and then address it that way. But you cannot allow for it to continue. You cannot have a team where there is a cancer, because the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So recognizing where that is coming from and how you can build it. We have an intention board. Every month, one person is responsible for that board. They can do, something for spring. They can do something for St. Patrick's Day, or Movember, with, whatever they want to do, as long as it is positive, as long as it is inclusive, and as long as it is loving. But if you need diversity in your team and a cohesiveness that is not there, there's a reason. And you just have to find that reason. There's a reason, there's a person, or maybe two. There's always that 1%. And addressing that, and addressing it quickly. Talk to each, have a one-on-one little brief talk with your staff. Hey, how you doing? What's going on today? What do you think we can do better? Or have it in your monthly staff meetings or something like that. And, or take this kind of conversation Make it your staff meeting for next month. Talk about diversity. Talk about it. Talk about what they're seeing and how they're feeling. Because let's say you have a Indian, Asian American, or African American who may have experienced a guest coming in and seeing them and saying, I don't want to be touched by that person. Yeah. So you have to really kind of dig deep, open up the conversation, talk to them.
And it's going to be scary, but I think you need to take that leap of faith to walk through it together.
I have something I want to share here that a friend had sent to me that I think is so powerful. And, it's about diversity and inclusion. And basically, it says for diversity invites you to the party. Inclusion invites you to the dance.
I saw that. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Diversity also asks who's in the room, and inclusion asks who has a seat at the table. Diversity asks how many different voices are there, and inclusion asks has everyone been heard?
I love that.
It's very powerful.
Those are questions, that we could all ask ourselves, take back to our respective, places of work and even in life, because, as I said before, this is also about lack of exposure, perhaps in your social life, right? Or looking to work on that, to change that dynamic. It's important. It is really important. It'll help you become a better person and step outside of your comfort zone. And it's very necessary. We can't.
And Deborah, Kim Marshall asked if you could share that. So if you could share that, and then we would like to share that as well.
Absolutely, I will.
And I'd like to make one highlight what Sharon had mentioned. She said, and also in what we were just talking about, we should all do a wage analysis to get a picture of where your baseline is. Gender and diversity equity analysis is what she was referring to. So I think that's also a great point. Mm-hmm. We have time for one last question. Stephanie had asked if you're both back at work, and how are you going to handle these tense times with your staff? Particularly in DC is what she asked, Deborah, but I think Maureen can also attest to what's been going on in Florida.
I'm not back at work yet. We've been closed since March, and we are waiting, like everyone else, to find out when that, reopening is going to be. But I have stayed in contact with my team. I have, texted them, called them individually. We've done Zoom happy hours, checked in with them constantly just to make sure they're okay, which is really important because, there could be nothing worse than you having closed in March and then there's no communication, no connection. And then come whenever you reopen, you have no idea if you're going to have any staff or just where people are mentally, emotionally. I'm very conscious of the fact that this COVID-19 and everything that is going on in this country right now is going to impact everybody differently. So I'm very much aware of the fact that I can't just show up when we reopen and, just think everybody is feeling the same that I'm feeling, because I've kept myself busy. I've been working on a reopening strategy to make sure that when we, hit the ground running, I have a plan in place, right? But my team, I can't assume that they've been doing the same thing, right? So you have to meet people where they are. And so I'm very conscious of the fact that there's going to have to be a lot of air hugs, because we can't hug, we can't touch, right? But, I'm going to have to show my team a lot of extra love when we get back together, because it's going to be difficult after being home for all of these months, to get back into the groove of what they were used to.
And I think you as leaders, both Maureen and Deborah, you need those hugs as well. But I think helping other people and bringing that together will help you as well, because being the leader right now is not easy on any end.
There's no playbook. There's no playbook for this. And there's still an expectation that, you open the doors, you execute flawlessly, and you're taking away so many things that you offered before, but you're still expected, to elevate the guest experience. And we will, but there is no playbook. So it'll be one day at a time.
And right now you're seeing that shift where it used to be the guest is always right, but now it's the employee.
Absolutely.
And taking care of the safety of that employee and the health and safety.
Yeah, and keeping in mind their mental health. I mean, that's going to be paramount in this as we return, because you just don't know where people are.
No.
There are a lot of what ifs. We've been open for 3 weeks, and we are operating with limited staff, limited days, limited use of facilities. Of course, trying to keep the social distancing aspect and sterilization procedures, not only with the treatment rooms, all of the tools and that kind of thing. So we're offering limited services as well. I felt, and I still feel, that it was important for me to be very diligent, like I'm not, but very diligent and very straightforward with my staff, but not coddling them. I know everybody is anxious and frustrated and afraid. But we're back to do a job. So they're not allowed to speak about it during the day. We have a powwow in the morning. We have a powwow before we leave during the day. How was it? How did it go? You know, what can we do better tomorrow? But having that pre-opening strategy and having the conversation being about, okay, you need this. Okay, let's do this. Let's do that. And get through the day so that their mind and their consciousness is always fearful, and that nervous energy is not translating to the guests, because we do want to offer that elevated experience, even though they're still not able to use the facilities or relax for a while afterwards or spend the entire day. And it has really worked well. So at the end of the day, at the end of the short week, they say, okay, we made it, we did it, you know, we got through a great week. Let's go home, you know, on Friday. What's everybody doing Friday night? And, you know, so it's been very much staying focused on purpose. And, you know, and I know that we have to be very cognizant of all of the emotions, all of the feelings, all of the fears. And there's always going to be that. It's just heightened right now with the COVID-19 and the racial things that are happening in our streets and our communities and in our government at this time. But the spa is not the place for it. We want to have the guests that are coming in with all of those fears, all of that anxiety, all of that frustration, and turn that around for them. That's who we are. And that's who we have an opportunity to be as we reopen and re-invite our guests to come back. Let us help you decompress. And we can't do that if we're having a nervous breakdown back in the break room. And we have to put on our game face and be the church right now.
I love it. Just like with dealing with a 3-year-old, right? You have to not let, right?
It's true. Yeah, very much so. Oh, wow, ladies, this has been such an inspirational conversation. And I really appreciate the truth, the honesty that you've brought here. We're looking at the comments that all of our wonderful participants have made in the chat section, and they are inspired. Sandra said she's inspired to open a conversation in the UK. And people, all of our participants are just saying that they really needed to hear what you had to say today, and thank you for the inspiration.
Well,
this is not where our conversation is going to stop. We are going to continue to have this dialogue, and we cannot wait to talk with you again. Kim, what any final words you'd like to say?
As you know, I've been so scared of these talks. Sophie had to kind of navigate me to do them. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right person. I don't know. And she's like, stop. So it's been scary for me, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn more and be part of it and be able to make a difference. I want to make a difference, and I just want to make sure I'm the right person to help lead that. So thank you so much.
Is there any final words or thoughts you'd like to share with us, Maureen, Deborah?
I think that you are the perfect person, Kim,
to
start the conversation, simply because you've become aware There's one thing that I know, and that it is everything that we know is not all there is to know. We just need to be open to learning and having that dialogue. And I really appreciate meeting all of you and talking to you. And I really appreciate you bringing this very controversial but important topic to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. And hugs to your son. I feel him with us today. So it was very important for him to be here too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, for this opportunity and for your willingness, to take a stand. It's not an easy conversation to have. And so I am certainly grateful for the opportunity to participate and to share. And I really do believe this is the start of a change of things to come. So thank you.
Thank you. And Sophie and Stephanie, we are working on some things moving forward. We're just trying to see what they're going to look like, but we have more to come. So we're really excited about that and what we're brainstorming on.
Fantastic.
And you're all welcome to join and for feedback for sure. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.